All right, back at it once again. Let me see. Oh, my mic is plugged up. Oh, there we go. All right, once again, it's on Running with War. Our latest and greatest episode. Got Gabe Wilkins with me. What Gabe said on Twitter. Joshua M. Hicks, Joshua M. Hicks Media on Twitter and IG. Banging in the schoolyard as we always do. Got plenty to talk about on this latest edition. We're gonna bring in Steve Parham, the head coach at Julian High School men's basketball, as well as a writer and scout. Talk about the goings on in high schools, the high school scene here in Chicago and in Illinois. The state tournament is going to be coming up this week in Champaign. I believe is back in Champaign. I believe,
Yeah.
and and we got to talk to them about some Duke stuff too, because Duke kind of played themselves over the weekend, but it's still a lot of interesting stuff going. We gonna show Coach K some love too, but that was kind of bogus what happened on Saturday. But a lot of college stuff going on about all the conference. This is one of the best weeks outside of the first week and weekend of March Madness. You got the conference tournaments this week. I think like 6 teams are getting their automatic bids tonight, and so I'm bouncing back to those games and stuff and all that. So I like those games with the little gyms and stuff. You have like those little gyms on the East Coast and those little conferences and stuff. Yeah, the first time you see those some of those teams all year. But that's that time to shine. Did y'all see the shot yesterday? God, was that school? That was a little bigger gym though. That 40-foot game winner.
Wasn't it Chattanooga?
Chattanooga, yes, Chattanooga, yeah. UT Chattanooga. That was a dope. Yeah, that's the dope. That's the type of stuff you get at this time of year, man. That's great stuff, man. But of course we're gonna get to the Bulls. This originally was gonna be like a post game show for yesterday, but by the end of that game, man, I just was like, man, I ain't feeling it, man. Bulls, man, we gonna dissect them a little bit, but it's getting rough, man, and it's coming out of that game. Like I say, it's sort of there's some hard questions, some hard things you gotta face. I think coming out of that game, and Billy Donovan said as much in the post game conference and everything. But flipping out of that on the more positive side, on the non-Bull side, I think I don't know. I think it's sort of clear cut what the MVP race is right now at this point. But we're gonna go over that as well. And I also want to talk about who's the most dangerous team right now in the East. And there's 2 choices I got for that. But I'll give y'all a chance to open that up as well. But first off, just going over some of the things that have been going on in the world and everything. Last show I ended it with a shout out to Ukraine, and I think a lot of like-minded people want peace over there right now, but it's a little bit more than what was being asked of people like Vladimir Putin right now. But it's hard, man. It's hard over there with what's going on. And we talked a little bit last week about the cross section in basketball, in particular women's basketball, with the athletes that are over there trying to escape. And over the last week, a primary storyline that is developed around one of our biggest women's basketball stars here in the United States, in Brittney Griner. And she's going through a harrowing situation now. Was playing and competing over there in Russia, and now she's been detained due to an issue with her supposedly having some drugs or drug paraphernalia, or whatever. And I was wondering if you guys were keeping up with that, and what's your thoughts on that? Opening up.
Of course, I kept up with it. That was the biggest story, in all the sports. The top off Saturday morning, and when I saw it, just makes you think about, player safety over there, especially in this current political climate. You hope that U.S. Congress officials and politicians and the like can get involved in, helping her get back home, because that's not a good situation to be in. And it's just very unfortunate, just hearing stories from current overseas pros from Chicago, such as Jerome Randall, who I believe in Ukraine for a while this season and was trying to figure out a way to get out of his deal. And now you seeing that happen with Brittney Griner, who is arguably, just as big of a star in Russia as she is in the United States, because she's one of the top players there by salary in the league in which she plays, if I'm not mistaken. So, that was just very unfortunate. You just hope that she could get back home safely and in one piece, man, because that could be a very ugly situation. And you just hope that all hands are on deck, to help her get the assistance that she needs.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, very similar to Dave's. Just really focusing on the safety component of it. But I think the other side that really got me thinking too was I wish there was a way that we could expand the WNBA so they don't have to go overseas all the time to play these games, especially in situations like this where political wars are taking place. Because if the league expanded in the way that we believe it could have, maybe a lot of this would have been eliminated. You would have a lot more WNBA players staying home, playing here in the United States. So I just wish that we can get to a point where that can actually become a reality. So that way we wouldn't have to deal with situations such as Brittney Griner, which is very unfortunate. And not just Brittney Griner, but all the WNBA players that's playing overseas in Russia and Ukraine right now, trying to get them back home to safety, because that's their main gigs outside of the WNBA, just to stay afloat. So I wish all the players, safe travel, safety, and hopefully, the opportunities to come back home. But I wish there was a way they could actually stay home and still make the top money that they really rightfully deserve, like they're doing overseas right now.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue. I think it's hard to sort of exclude that market and that, that to exclude all of Europe or whatever overseas from these women. It'll take a lot, a lot of investment here in the United States. But you're not gonna necessarily have that for everybody. There's gonna be a market out there for women basketball players to play in other nations. Like we have it for men. It's just not everybody can play in the NBA. Not everybody can play in the WNBA. But it's tough. It is tough where you have these precarious positions going on, and I don't know how far out we could have foreseen. I know there's been these issues over there for a while in Ukraine. I don't know in the Ukraine and so former Soviet nations and everything being at at the whims of Russia, but it's hard to foresee something like this happening, even 2 months ago or so. So when these women, when these leagues were kicking off their seasons, I'm sure they were, I don't know how much they knew about any sort of possible war-like actions that were going to take place in and around their where they were playing. So, it's just a tough situation. I think when you get more towards Griner's situation, hopefully reporting and everything will come of this, where we can see, was she pinpointed in any particular way, targeted? We've heard of issues where people of color have had, particular problems transporting themselves across borders and simply getting out of the way of that area. People just wanting to get out of that area and being held up for no reason, or being not as prioritized and being dealt with, in crossing borders as native Ukrainians or the like, and also, you get the, like I say, the whole issue of her being a high profile athlete and her possibly having some sort of narcotics on her. Was this a situation where they were possibly trying to send a message to the United States over there? And, that's the type of thing that is really scary for a person to get caught up in, because those things are so much bigger than any one individual. And you getting caught up in some geopolitical type, type of play where, one nation is trying to send a message again to another and trying to, trying to come off harder than what, than they need to, So, yeah, it's a lot, man. And, like I said, as basketball fans, I just can't help but think about, and this goes into what you say, Josh, like just a few months ago, she was over here playing in the WNBA finals, playing at the highest level in America, just enjoying herself. She didn't win eventually, but, she was just playing the sport as any other player of her caliber would. And, to have to go from that to this in such a small amount of time is just a hard thing, And, we definitely need some change in that regard, and definitely should keep our thoughts and prayers with Brittney, man, and her loved ones, and hope they can hope they get the support that they need to see themselves through this situation.
Most definitely. And you also hope that, the Mercury organization steps up as well. They said that they have had some knowledge about the situation. My only question about the situation is why did it take so long, to hit the news? Especially because who it is, a high profile star in the WNBA. Like you said, a star that has played the WNBA finals just recently as the last year, and also has won multiple WNBA championships in her time down in the desert. So, you do wish her family well and thoughts and prayers, but you do wonder sometimes when you see these stories come in as late as they have, is there some bigger at play, as you mentioned as well, Cal? Because that was definitely something that came to my mind as well. Especially considering the relationship between the U.S. and Russia, even though Russia and Ukraine is going through their thing as well, and that's a real crazy situation that you don't wish on anybody to be in, especially on foreign soil in a situation where they're not familiar with. And granted, you got WNBA players playing overseas, and it's always going to be an overseas market for women basketball players who aren't able to go to the WNBA, as you alluded to. But when you have top 5 and top 10 and top 15 players having to do this year in and year out, that's crazy. And it lets you know, like, more investments need to be made in the WNBA for certain. Who's gonna step up remains to be seen.
Exactly. Yeah. That shouldn't be the case. Like he said, it's not. The NBA is not the case for NBA players. And but like I said, what I was basically saying was that basically at this point in time, there would be typically some sort of American or foreign presence in those nations, regardless, because they have basketball leagues. They have people who want to put on basketball leagues in those nations. People are gonna go over there and play. But it's like I said, it's more striking, like you say, Gabe and Josh, when we have established stars over here having to go over there, and it's been established. They go over there to make money that they couldn't make here. And in recent times, we've had, actually this year, for the first time, you had established like the athletes with Athletes United, and that whole thing. They put out some games and stuff, some tournaments in Vegas, but that's not the type of things set up yet that could keep, like I say, keep a Brittney Griner from coming up, from having to travel elsewhere, or some of these other players, the top rank, from having to go over there and make the money that they feel that they should be making over here, or want to make at least. And so like I say, overall, we've talked a lot about reform and things that need to be done, to better protect or better, just show more value for our for women's basketball players. But this really drives it home, this type of situation, how precarious they can, precarious situation they could be put in just for one to compete and do their job at a certain level, So like I said, we wish the best for her. Wish the best for everyone who is still over there. I'm not sure how many more WNBA level players are still over there, but definitely the big issue. Like Gay, I think one of the big issues, if not the biggest issue, was the delay in time between her first being deposed and us hearing about it over here. It was about like 2 weeks or something, Gay.
Yeah. And that's the thing that stands out. When looking at it, is why did it take so long? And and especially when the Mercury organization knew about it. That was the biggest question that I had. But to me, that was arguably the biggest story on Saturday morning and dropped in the sports world. So I definitely have my eyes on it.
Let's all keep our eyes on that as it keeps going forward. But on a I say bring it back over here. I say on another level and everything. Another note, we want to bring up one of these series that we're going to be keeping track of, both on here and on some other WARR programming. The Winning Time series with the LA focusing on the Showtime Lakers of the '80s. Now that premiered over the weekend on HBO. I'm going to be doing some series recaps, show recaps with my guy David Evans. We'll probably bring some of y'all on too from this show and others. So we're gonna do that later in the week. Me and Dave will do our first one. But I want to bring. I'm gonna talk about it here on this show as well with the guys. Josh didn't get a chance to see this first episode that aired on HBO on Sunday, but me and Gabe did. So right quick before we bring Steve on, Coach Steve, and get into the Bulls and everything, I want to talk a little bit about that first episode and get your thoughts on the game. I saw on Twitter you had mentioned one thing that really stuck out to me too of that episode. Like this episode, like I said, it's based on a book called Showtime by Jeff Parham, the great writer and reporter who has done a lot of in-depth books, big narrative books or biographies of people like Walter Payton and others, but also of teams and eras. And the Showtime Lakers, he took on that whole era in a book and wrote about basically the building of that team and its initial the initial buying of the team by Dr. Jerry Buss in the late 70s, and the drafting soon after of Magic Johnson in 1979, and then just the way that team skyrocketed, that franchise skyrocketed all the way up to Magic's initial retirement in 1991 from his having to announce that he was HIV positive. And the series starts off, the first episode actually starts off, the very first scene is Magic learning that he's learning that he was HIV positive. He hadn't announced it yet. He's just in the doctor's room, and he's learning that. Then it flashes all the way back to 79, and the whole episode then sort of takes place. It deals with a lot of stuff that it's an entertaining show. A lot of sort of humor involved in it too. Jerry Buss being played by John C. Reilly, and a young unknown actor by name of you going to help me out? Help me out this game. Quincy Isaiah, yeah, who was played by Matt, who was playing Magic, and also in the series is Devon Nixon, the son of Norm Nixon, playing his father. So those are three main main actors in regards to the team. There's also Jerry West being played by an actor named Jason Clark, and yeah, it's just a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of history. Like I said, we'll go into it in the other show that I'm going to do with the recap. But it got off to a good start. My overall take is that it got off to a good start. I've since read some things about the portrayals that some criticism about the portrayals. In particular, let's get this up. My man from Mark Stein. Yeah, Mark Stein had a lot to write about the portrayal of Jerry West in the episode. But from Jerry West and his point of view in this episode, like I say, I'm getting back to the point that you gave on Twitter, and this is something else, something that I also had that was sort of revelatory to me, was that how much the Lakers sort of struggled with making the choice of getting Magic Johnson in '79, and there's apparently more of an internal struggle there than a lot of us who weren't there at the time knew about. Now, how much should we trust the depiction in the show? There still may be an issue, but I guess the show is also basing a lot of it on the book, and a lot of their depiction on the book. So it's sort of tricky, but basically what the show says is that West wanted no part of drafting Magic Johnson, and he wanted Sidney Moncrief in that draft. This is an interesting role that the Bulls play in this whole process is that there was a coin flip prior to the formulating of the draft order that year, and the Bulls could have been the number one team in that draft. It was basically, like I say, the coin flip was between the Bulls and the Lakers. Bulls wind up getting who they get?
They got David Greenwood.
Yeah,
out of Houston. That's who they got.
David Greenwood, and the Lakers, they had the choice to pick Magic. Everybody, you would have thought, it was just a no-brainer. He was coming off the national championship win, beat Larry Bird and all that. And, Larry Bird was already in '78. He was locked down with the Boston Celtics, so he wasn't even a factor in the draft. So, like I said, everybody thought it was a no-brainer. You get Magic Johnson, but apparently, Sidney Moncrief was was wanted by West, and Jerry Buss, who actually didn't have complete control of the team yet. He was in process of claiming the team from Jack Kent Cooke, who previously owned the team. He was trying to buy the team, buy the team from Jack Kent Cooke. He wanted Magic, and a lot of this episode shows how Magic and Jerry Buss first become enamored with each other. They meet and they become enamored, and sort of started getting to their Playboy stuff in LA together. So, like I say, it's a very fun watch. And Gary, I'll let you get into your thoughts and on that side, as far as the historical depictions or whatever, and what you think about how it was portrayed.
I thought overall for a pilot episode, it was a very well played pilot. I think it shows you, if you're a true fan of the game, the process that goes into buying teams, which I don't think the average fan understands or knows. Back then, how it was much different, because if I'm not mistaken, I think he purchased the Lakers for $67 million, and and look at what they've become now. Over the course of time in the 40 plus years that the Buss family has had ownership. But you think about where they started from and how, I get some of it. I wasn't expecting as much dark comedy as I saw, but it goes well with it. As well as like the breaking of the fourth wall, which I thought was unique and you don't see done in most television shows anymore. But it goes well with it. I like that it was shot. I think some of the things that were depicted or the way some people were depicted wasn't necessarily true based off what I've read. Like the Norm Nixon and Magic thing, yeah, it was competition there, but I don't think it was that crazy as to what they made it out to be in the first episode. Now, how that develops over the course of the series, I'm interested to see. I think that they did very well from a casting standpoint of the actors.
Yeah.
As far as like with Jerry West, he was a true revelation. I don't think Jerry West is the type of guy that they portrayed him to be. But I did read that was true about them having some conflict in regards to which direction to go with the number one pick and how he wasn't necessarily sold on Magic, which I can kind of understand because during that time, from the way in which the game was played, if you didn't fit a certain mold at the point guard, you weren't well accepted. And with Magic being the guy that was 6'8", 6'9", and being able to bring the ball up the floor, you could tell that people weren't ready for that. And I could get where he was coming from, but it just was interesting just to see the parallels and then just to also see the struggles in which Buzz had to undergo in the effort to get the team. And my only problem I had with it is they didn't highlight Donald Sterling, who is really like enough to me, who is really the guy who most people don't know, helped Dr. Buzz get the Lakers. It gave him, loan money to make sure that deal went through. And both of those guys had a
he was
a game in SoCal.
He was actually shown in this first episode, but they just sort of went with the joke of him being quote the second worst Donald of the 80s, and they did some foreshadowing with him where he was sort of like he was sort of looking over Magic like he was a piece of property or something, and they give you a little bit of the issues that we would learn later. And one thing with this series that I wasn't aware of, that I thought it was just going to be like a mini series, but apparently the series may actually be multiple series, because the one review that I read says that the first season only deals with the first year that Magic was there. So apparently they have plans for the show to stick around for a while. And if you only spend one season on 1 year, and so that's going to be interesting. And I guess it would make me think that there could be a lot of time going forward where they do get into other characters like Donald Sterling and others in LA and stuff. There was a lot of people who they touched on already in the series in this first episode, like Genie Bus and the manager of the Forum. I forget her name. She's important too going forward. Claire Rothman, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they touched on a lot of names that they're going to of people who they're going to bring up and sort of be more characterized going forward. But I'm going to read right quick before I bring Steve on what Mark Stein did. Mark Stein, veteran NBA reporter, covered the LA for a couple years. He covered the Lakers specifically for a couple years in the 90s himself. But this is what he had to say about the first episode. Let me get this. Jerry West's old office at the Fabulous Forum did not have windows to hurl objects through in anger. None of the Forum's basketball offices did. West also, to my knowledge, did not keep his 1969 NBA Finals MVP trophy in that office. That scene Sunday night where he supposedly chucked it through glass in frustration because the Los Angeles Lakers drafted Magic Johnson over Sidney Moncrief, total fabrication. I'm likewise told West never played golf in a foursome with eventual Lakers owner Jerry Buss and then Lakers general manager Bill Sharman. Even if he had, I'm quite confident that West, even ever the gentleman in public, never would have broken a golf club over his knee or stormed away from a putt to engage in a curse-filled shouting match with the regal Sharman. So, yeah, if depending on your knowledge of the whole situation and of the league and of the franchise, you may have certain issues with depictions and specific details and stuff like that. But I'm recommending the series as of now. And I'm interested to see how many more points with how many more points does the story sort of take privilege or take license with artistic license, I should say, with the actual story and how other people from that time, from the team, from the franchise, from that era, if anybody gonna come out and say anything about the way that they're depicted. Kareem was interested too in this episode. They show Kareem filming the movie Airplane in this episode, and he's like they really sort of get into him being ultra black, and they show pictures of that he's in his dressing room, got the loud jazz in the headphones, and you got France Fanon books on the on his dresser and stuff. Like they really drove that home, like just who Kareem was supposed to be at that point in time. But it was fun for me. It was a fun watch, and like I said, we gonna keep as a whole here with Runnin and a WARR Media. We're gonna keep up with this show as it goes on HBO throughout the spring here. But let me not hold off Steve any longer. He's been patient with us, holding on here. Coach Steve Parham from the Julian High School. What's going on, brother?
Oh man, what's happening, man? It's been a while. How you doing, fellas?
How you doing, Steve?
Yeah. It's been. I think we haven't had you on since the new year, huh? Has it been?
Yeah, we have. I think the last time I got with you guys was like right before the big when Sides Collide event. Like when Whitney Young played.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, yep. You're right. And we didn't. I don't think we talked after that, but we get you now. We get you now a day after the Super Sectionals, which happened at UIC. We gonna talk about that in a little bit, but
okay.
I sort of dragged out a couple of opening topics here. We haven't even gotten to the Bulls yet. I don't know how much you're gonna talk about with the Bulls, but yesterday they take another L with Philly. They lose their 11th straight since Joel Embiid has been on the Philadelphia 76ers. They have yet to beat him as a pro, and they continue their overall they continue their losing streak against top 3 teams in both the East and the West. They haven't beat a top 3 team in either conference this season, and it's really starting to drain on, I think, the fan base and the team itself and the coach. Coach Donovan didn't seem to have much energy in the post game. So I'll just leave it to you guys, Gabe and Josh, man. Your thoughts coming out of this game. Do you think this was type of game that really drives home sort of the deficiencies that the Bulls may have right now, or is it just a bad matchup? Like it seems to be the worst matchup for them. Trying to stop Embiid, he hits them with another 40-point game, and on top of that, you have his ultimate Robin now with James Harden at his side. They just played sort of a perfect game. It really was able to do pretty much anything they wanted.
I mean, yeah, it absolutely you frustrated about it, but it is all about matchups. But in my opinion, I expected this with the Bulls. Even though Caruso and Ball are not in the lineup, part of having young teams in the NBA and dealing with them, even when they ascend upward, is them figuring out how to beat top-notch teams. And you got to think about it when you look at the Bulls roster. They have a lot of guys who have not been battle tested. If you were to take away DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso and Tristan Thompson off the roster, and I think they're finally getting a chance to feel what it's like playing in hostile environments. Philadelphia is not not an easy place rather to play in the league, and it hasn't been over the last several years. When that building gets loud and that team goes on runs very quick, it could take even some of the most experienced teams out their comfort zone. So, in my opinion, it's not the best matchup for them. And yes, they do have to figure out ways to beat top 3 teams. But the loss against Milwaukee, in my opinion, hurts more than this one does, because that was a game that you had a chance to win and you were up in, had a great third quarter. You just didn't finish it. And that's what they have to learn how to do. And that's their next step, is trying to learn how do we win as a unit together once they find a way to get healthy. Because sooner rather than later, Caruso will be back, Lonzo will be back, Patrick Williams will be back, albeit, near the tail end stretch of the season. And they're going to need all 3 of those guys and other hands on deck in the effort to try and make some noise in the Eastern Conference, where they're not going to have nothing given to them. And they're going to have to prove
it. And that's the main thing right now, because when you look at the way that Philly is surging, Philly looks like they're determined to at least be a top 2 team in the conference going into the playoffs. You got another team in Boston who has just been hitting on all cylinders, and they're invading the top 3 now. You still got Milwaukee, who was involved, and the Bulls are just, like I say, they're losing ground. They're losing real estate in that top 4. So now you're looking at, like, can they keep in the top 6 and keep themselves out of that play-in? Because that's not going to be assured, given who else is in the mix when Cleveland and the like, and still, as of now, you still have the Nets team that could possibly be in the mix with that as well, but still Charlotte and others. Josh, what are your thoughts coming out of the game, and what does it say about the Bulls and their their outlook right now?
Nothing much outside of what we already know. I didn't expect them to win this game. We never win against Joel Embiid in the first place, because Joel Embiid is just a matchup nightmare for us. But at the same time, like Gabe mentioned, we don't have all of our best defenders at least healthy and playing, and we can't guard anybody as a team, as a unit, for a full 48-minute game. That's really the biggest problems that the Bulls deal with. And honestly, that's a problem that's always been, a historic problem for the franchise in general over the past few years, is them being able to put together units and games where they can play for full 48 minutes, especially since the Billy Donovan arrived here last year. And that's something that takes time to figure out. But at the same time, it's up to the players to get down to the nitty-gritty and know how to put a stop to it no matter who's on the court. Billy Donovan always talks about how it doesn't matter who's on the court. They have to play together as a defensive unit, and they have to come together and find ways to get it done. They don't have the top players that can actually assist with that, but it also doesn't help that you're playing Zach LaVine, whose knee injury is probably worse than that's being put out there right now, and you can see it. He's not moving as quick, not as explosive, can't jump as high. He's not as aggressive defensively, except in key moments when he has to be. But outside of that, the team and ways have to overcompensate for those things. And I love the addition of Tristan Thompson, because he gives us the toughness that we need, especially in the paint as a backup big man. But at the same time, it can't just be him in the paint guarding the ball, guarding against the best of the best. It can't just be guys like Ayo guarding the best players all over the court all game long. People that don't play defense that much, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, even though those are players that aren't no defensive stoppers per se, they could play better defense overall to assist the defensive stoppers that are currently on the floor with them. And that's the biggest thing. The offense will come and go, but at the end of the day, defensively is where you have to win through those games and get you deep into the championships. And unfortunately, the Bulls don't have that right now, because they're not just playing defense individually; they're not playing defense as a cohesive unit without their best players on the court, and that's what's nipping them in the bud right now.
Hey, you talk about offense coming and going. I want to throw out something. Our guy Drew tweeted out. He couldn't come on the show tonight, but I'll give us a little bit of Drew to what he tweeted earlier today about DeMar and him coming out of that amazing stretch where so much of what he was doing was based on his efficiency, his ability to keep shooting over 50% from the field. And, this is what Drew said. He came into the All-Star weekend shooting 50% from mid-range, 50.2. He's hit only 43.9% of those shots in the 6 games since. In the past 2 games against the Bucks and Sixers, DeRozan is 11 for 27 in the mid-range. So that was something where he was eating and the Bulls were eating a lot in recent times, and that's been taken away from him as well. But like Josh said, there are going to be times where that offense is not coming in the same way that you expect it to. One thing that you can rely on more if you provide it for yourself is defensive effort, and they haven't been able to do that as much as we would like them to.
Yeah, and honestly, you got to think about it. We're still talking about young guys who really haven't played that much NBA basketball in their career. So we can't expect them to overnight just be able to just rise up and play these top level teams that's been playing. I mean, let's be real. I mean, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to cut off a little bit, Kyle. The team you didn't even mention, who's the number 1 team right now, is Miami. You know what I'm saying? Miami is a team you didn't even mention, and realistically,
well, I kind of did that.
Yeah, purpose. I got you.
Yeah, because the thing is, they can't even the Bulls. Like, I'll just say right quick, the Bulls. Like Gabe mentioned, the game against Milwaukee being a tough loss, and it was. The Bulls have played Milwaukee good this year. In both of those games, they played them well. They just couldn't beat them. They've played more or less competitively with 76ers even. They just have that horrible matchup with Embiid, and they can't ever contain him. They haven't done a damn thing against Miami. So the Bulls being in the number 1 spot is really a foregone conclusion right now. That's not happening because Miami,
it was fool's gold.
They're playing a more consistent ball in the East, and if the Bulls are not going to have any chance at a tiebreaker with them because they can't beat them right now. And the same is looking the same. It's looking the same for them against the 76ers, unfortunately, as well.
Yeah, I mean, and like you were saying, like realistically, we don't have a matchup. I thought maybe getting Tristan Thompson would probably help us a little bit defensively because he knows angles and things. But remember, Tristan Thompson's been in the league for a while. He's not moving with Embiid. Tristan Thompson doesn't seem comfortable guarding Embiid out on the perimeter like that. And then, Embiid is able to – he's a great passer. And then he's talking crap as he's playing. So he's probably getting into the guy's head. And we know Vooch is who he is. He's going to be a double-double guy, but he's not going to be able to guard anyone. He's not – I mean, I don't know what matchup fits well for him come playoff time, to be honest. I don't know who – I mean, even with the Cleveland, I know Jared Allen has been out. He's just got hurt. But still, are we going to put – in the first round, we get Cleveland. We're going to put Vucevic on what's the rookie?
Evan Mobley.
Mobley.
Evan Mobley. Yeah, is he going to guard Evan Mobley? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, these are things that we do have to face, but I think, like you said, the main thing is the ball pressure. We need that back. We do need Caruso's ball pressure because Ayo can't do it on the best player every night. It's just not going to happen. He'll tire out.
We saw him guarding. We saw him trying to guard Harden yesterday too. That was hard.
Yeah,
that was a welcome to the league moment for Ayo.
He's been getting a lot of welcome in the league moments. He's been getting a lot of welcome in the league moments lately. Because like anytime you got to go and guard Trae Young, then you got to guard James Harden, or Tyler Herro.
Difficult.
Every single night, he's getting somebody assigned to him that's gonna make him work. And he's had moments where he succeeded, but he's also had moments where he gotten exposed, and that's just part of the game. He's learning and and having to figure out a way to adjust to it. And I agree with you, Steve, on Vucevic, because it's gonna be so many guards come playoff time when that game getting at half court and it's a pick and roll attack. Guards are gonna seek to hunt him down. James Harden, Darius Garland, all the like Trae Young, they're gonna seek to hunt him down on a one-on-one and get him isolated at all times. And Tristan, I mean, it's a lot of bigs that don't want to play against Joel in space when he has it in the perimeter. But for the most part, I like the addition of Tristan because he gives him some toughness and girth inside, and they need him for his rebounding ability, which is something that has really killed the Bulls in a lot of games. It killed them against Milwaukee. And that's another thing he has to come down to as well. So their point of attack got to be much better defensively, particularly with the guards, and rebounding, they got to be much better. And Vucevic, yeah, he pretty much is who he is, but he's the biggest X factor because when Vucevic is playing well, the team is rolling. When Vucevic is not playing well, they're getting killed on offense at every level.
And I think we also got to look at that power forward position. We're using small forward guys to play power forward. I mean, we're putting Green at a power forward who's 6'4". Yeah, he's athletic, but brother, you're still 6'4", trying to guard a probably 6'7", 6'10" guy who's probably athletic and can shoot. And the same thing with Jones. Athletic as ever, but still playing a 4, and he's so thin. Like, who are you really guarding? Maybe, and I get it. From my point of view, they're trying to switch everything and be comfortable switching everything, and that's fine. But come playoff time, we know it's about possessions, just like when we talk about later as far as the state stuff and the high school side. It's about possessions, and we don't. And I think. Hicks had mentioned something about like Levine being hurt, not really necessarily knowing. Like, if we don't have that second score from Levine, we are dead in the mud first round. I thought this Bulls team would be a second round out team possibly this year, but we could possibly be a first round and out because if we don't find that second score immediately, we gonna struggle, especially when it comes down to these possessions. Because DeMar he's not gonna be able to save us every time.
Yeah, and it's gonna leave a lot of pressure on Kobe White too, who I think is very capable of winning you a couple playoff games, but that's a hell of a spot to put your 6-man in every single night if you're not able to get that production consistently from Zach, as you alluded to. And I got a chance to see him personally against Minnesota his last game prior to the All-Star break. And when he went up for that dunk and he landed, that knee, ever since that moment, has not been right. You've had flashes. And I think we saw that on Friday night when he had a real great game against the Bucks. And he was getting to his spots and whatnot. But when he's not able to do that consistently, it's going to leave a lot of pressure on somebody to spot DeMar on a night where he doesn't have it. And it's really going to put the most pressure on Kobe because he's the guy that can get hot at any given instant. And they're going to need him to have that.
It's rough, man, because when you look at that first half of the season and they got out to the run that they did and got out to the top of the conference, so much, like, everything was going so right that it was like it was easy to look at things and forget about some of the deficiencies and the natural holes that were there for this team. Even in spite of what they were dealing with that COVID stuff and everything, it seemed like this was a team that was deep enough and flexible enough with their talents to be able to get over anything in the light of that stuff. But really what we saw at that time was a team that wasn't being tested as much as they needed to. They've been tested much more in the past 6 weeks than they were in any time before that in the season. The schedule has been more consistently tough. They've had more road games, and they got more road games coming up as well. And they just they like I said, we know what we've missed in the front court. That was rectified a little bit with Thompson, but he's not a cure-all. And we definitely know what we miss in the perimeter and the on-ball defense with Al Caruso and Ball still out. So it's and for a while I was just like, man, let's just wait till these guys come back. But even then, it's sort of a similar situation to me with Brooklyn, where you're waiting on these reinforcements to come, but less and less days are available in the regular season to be able to make those things come to fruition and to be able to get yourself in a position where you're ready to go once the playoffs are going. And it really, you don't want to have to get the motor running in the playoffs. You want to be ready to go right when the playoffs start. You don't. It's not like baseball or something where you can just play your best ball of the year at that time and sort of find a way to get through the postseason. In the NBA, you got to be the team that you want to be ideally right when the playoffs start. So we got to see something happen with this. Something's got to flicker, some sort of light that reflects what they were doing in the first half. I would like to see that again in the next week or so, but there's going to be we look at the schedule, it's going to be a tough ask again. They have the Pistons tomorrow on the road. Pistons have played better ball lately. Cavaliers dealing with, Cavaliers coming back here on Saturday. We know that they're an improved team overall. They've dealing with some injuries, like we said, with Allen and such, but they're still a team that is pretty competitive, and they're going to be looking to keep themselves going in their playoff hunt. Then they go out on the West Coast a little bit with the Kings, Jazz, and Suns all in a row. Forget about the Kings game. That could be any number of things. Jazz and Suns alone is going to be tough. Then you got the Raptors at home and the Bucks in Milwaukee as you start to get closer to the end of the month. It's nothing's letting up. Like, you got a Pelicans game in the middle of all this, but that may not be even that. They've been improved in recent weeks as well with their play. But it's not going to be. It's not any off days really coming up, man. They got to get going again somehow.
I was reading something about Patrick Williams. Is he supposed to be making a comeback? Like, are they going to try to play him this year?
He's getting closer. I would expect him to start playing again before the end of the regular season. But again, there's how much is he going to be offering? That's going to be a question there.
Exactly.
We don't know.
How does he fit with this team? But how does he fit with this team though? Like they have that original group when we made our run when we were healthy had a nice little kick to it, and everybody kind of just came in and did their job. I don't know how Pat fits with this particular team. And granted, he could be come in and just take that small forward, power forward position. Cool, but at some point we also need to try to be a scorer for us too, because we just can't have you out here. And I don't know. I feel like you give him a few shots here and there, but if it's not going to work, we got to figure out what to do going forward. And again, I'm only saying this because I'm not a Patrick Williams fan, so that's why I really just want to know, like, if we kept him, so what are we gonna do with him? That
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, you got to show up with something.
He the biggest wild card because you don't know when he comes back whether or not he's gonna start, and then if he doesn't start when he's coming off the bench, how many minutes you gonna play him? Is his 3-point shot gonna be there? Now, prior to him getting hurt, he showed some signs in that Knicks game where he was showing some strides and some promise. Getting to the rim, making stuff happen on both ends of the floor. Is that gonna be the same guy that you get back or not? And depending on the matchup, you may not have a choice but to start him, especially when you bring up Steve earlier about Javonte Green being small and being a guy that you put at the 4, but he's like 6'4", 6'5", undersized, and you don't know how that matchup is going to play. It really doesn't tend to favor him well against the Giannis's and the big guys and the KDs of the world. So they're going to have to do something. And he's going to get some minutes, but whether or not he starts or not remains to be seen. He's the biggest wild card on this Bulls team right now.
It goes to show you again, that's one of Steve's first points that he made about this team being so young. We talk about Io having to guard so many other teams' best playmakers on a given night. And you know, we talk about, you know, P. Will being of such need to fill a hole in that 4th spot. Like, that's the type of thing that a championship team, it shouldn't be asking of players who are a year or two in the league. You know what I mean? That's unfair. It's, you know, is what we need, but it's not the fairest thing that you can ask of kids that age. But, you know, it's the position that they're in. You know, they didn't fortify that's the team in that way to where they couldn't ask anybody else to provide in those particular positions. And Io has, you know, that was a sort of a you know, fortuitous thing, a little bit of a roll of the dice there that worked out very well in their favor. And you know, it'll be great. It's great that we got him going forward. But again, he's going to be taking his lumps naturally because, like you say, Gabe, he's going out there trying to shut down all stars in most evenings. You know, Trae Youngs and Hardens and the like. You know, it's that's not going to work for him every night at this point. He's not there yet. You know. But yeah, I'm looking at some white boys fighting in one of these conference games now on the ESPN. It's getting wild, man. We gonna get into these conference games, these college games in a minute. But I want to do a couple of either ors right quick. You know, we're not doing much league-wide talk tonight, but just sort of two of the more prescient storylines going on right now. I'll start off with the team that we were talking about, along with the Bulls, Philly. You know, do we see them as the most dangerous team in the East, or is it Boston, or is it someone else?
To me, right now, Philly got it. They got it, man. James Harden motivated. You know, just seeing the training routine that he went through last night after the Bulls win, you know, running up the stairs, getting weightlifting in, getting treatment in each and every day. You can tell that he's trying to ramp his body up into tier top shape after starting the season a little bit out of shape, dealing with the hamstring issue and whatnot. He's rejuvenated. Joel Embiid is playing stellar basketball right now, in my opinion. You know, the season ended today. He be the MVP in my book. Then you add Tyrese Maxey, who has been huge and guys thought wouldn't work with James. Been excellent running the floor, finishing in transition, you know, knocking down catch and shoot threes. That was a big question with him. He's been a perfect fit besides James. And I know that he's been soaking James' mind for a lot of knowledge and whatnot in regards to playing off the pick and roll and so forth. Matisse Thybulle, you know, been active on the defensive end. Only question I have with Philly is Tobias Harris. They're going to need him to step it up. And since James Harden has been in that lineup, he's been kind of cold and he's been rather pedestrian-like. So they're going to really need him to be a big-time factor in the playoffs. Even if his shot's not going defensively, he's got to provide something for Philly and get his stride back, even if he is the third wheel now or maybe even fourth within the Florida offense.
Right quick, I just thought it was so key that they kept Maxey and any of that dealings, you know, with Brooklyn and stuff. Yeah. You know, that was very key, and it's showing why, because he was the guy. You know, you couldn't give up him and Ben Simmons. That would make no sense. Like, because Maxey was the guy who allowed Simmons to be dealable in the large part, from it, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. Philly is definitely one in that discussion for sure. And you talk about Boston, that two-headed monster over there with Jaylen Brown and Tatum. They figured it out. And it showed. Tatum going off for 50 some last game. You know, you can tell he's motivated and rejuvenated as well to help get the team back in the forefront of the playoff race. And give credit to Ime Udoka, first-year coach, to get that team circling back in the right direction.
So many people was trying to act like he maybe wasn't the guy, right, you know, at the beginning of the season, but now they got to shut their mouths a bit about him now.
Yeah, he definitely shown that he knows what he's doing to get this team back in the right direction. But for me, though, honestly, it's Miami, just because of the experience, just because of the roster that's put together over there, and it's an Eric Spoelstra team. Eric Spoelstra teams are always known to be very successful in the playoffs and postseason and throughout the regular season in general. They don't have many fall-offs. And it's shown so far right now with them being the number one team in the East why that is the case. They've had their injuries across the year, and they weren't always the number one team, but over time they eventually find that sweet spot where they just lock in and they stay locked in for a very long time. And that's what's showing right now. And it's hard to debunk the caliber that the Miami Heat coaching them bring, especially when you got someone like if their Oladipo comes back and becomes even 70% of what he used to be, that's a win for Miami. I think that's a win for Miami, especially going in the postseason. That gives them another option offensively, and you don't have to rely on Jimmy Butler giving you 25, 30 points a night. Like that's something that even though it's up in the air as a wild card per se, that's something that's like a extra play in their hand for Miami that not many teams are really going to be ready for if it plays out the way it's supposed to, that it can play out. So I just can't go against the Miami team that's led by Eric Spoelstra, that has the experience that Eric Spoelstra has and the culture that team has, especially since just 2 years ago in the bubble, they were in the NBA Finals. Like, let's not forget that the roster currently constructed was in the NBA Finals at one point. So I just can't go against them right now. And I think because of their experience, that's what's going to be the big thing. It's going to help them get over the top and potentially get them to another Eastern Conference Finals.
And they've added pieces since the bubble team. You know, they've been sort of the opposite of the Lakers in that way, where the Lakers sort of peaked in the bubble. But Miami is just, you know, they had a little bit of a downside last year. They had a almost embarrassing playoff series against Milwaukee last year, but Milwaukee was gunning for them. But you know, they didn't get too down in the dumps about that. They came back this year. They refortified that roster, and you got like Gabe Vincent and guys like that. You know, they watching them against the Bulls, like they was so impressive the way that they were just so energetic and able to guard multiple players and do different things on the court that the Bulls had no answer to in that particular game. And so you figure they're doing that night in and night out. And yeah, there's a reason why they're the top seeded team right now. And I would guess that they're going to stay that way.
That's the one thing you got to respect about Miami, man. No matter who they put in position on the floor, those guys are always ready to step in and step up. Even in the absence of guys when they've been hurt. You right, Josh, with Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't have to put up 20 to 25 a night with this team. He can have an off night and somebody's going to pick him up. PJ Tucker has been a huge presence for them, not just with his defense, but his three-point shooting, particularly the corner, in catch and shoot situations. Tyler Herro has grown immensely in his third season as a pro. And watching him on a night-to-night basis has been very phenomenal. So that's a team that you definitely can't count out. Every time you play them in the best of seven, you're going to get your money's worth because they're going to make you work defensively. And they are a well-coached team, and they always have been under Spoelstra.
Yeah. You want to say something, Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say, both of those two teams, I could see all those points, but I'm still a favor with Milwaukee. To be the champs, you got to beat the champs type of team, type of person. And I think a huge factor though is in Miami that PJ Tucker leaving Milwaukee is a big thing for them for sure. But I'm still on Drew Holiday, man. Dude, he showed the last playoffs that he step up in big games to help out, and he's not the second. He's the third tier guy for because I think Giannis and Middleton are going to get what they supposed to get.
You look at that Friday game with the Bulls. I was saying you look at that Friday game too, where Drew was abusing the Bulls in that fourth quarter. Man,
Yeah.
he was giving it to him, and so he's definitely a guy you got to take serious.
And to have 3 guys like that in a playoff series is tough. And now you pick up an Ibaka without losing much. Now you got that defensive guy who, again, we're talking about those bigs. Now you can put Ibaka, and granted, it's a more mature Ibaka against Miami's Bam Adebayo or Embiid, just to soak it up some. And I'm not sure how Brook Lopez be if he comes back, because he's always hurt a lot of times. But come playoffs, if he's come back and can give them even 75% of what he can be, it makes Milwaukee dangerous. And Giannis is always ready for that challenge. I think he's one of those guys that's like who likes to be doubted, because he always wants to try to prove himself. And I think that doubt being thrown that they can't win it 2 years in a row is nothing but fuel for them. So I'm Milwaukee. I mean, realistically, all 3 of those teams you can't go wrong with none of them. But I'm a Milwaukee guy.
Brook Lopez,
right.
if he could come back like you said, that'd be huge, because he's such a big part of what they do defensively and helping them space that floor out with his shooting ability. Like I said, I've been to Milwaukee games a lot of times over these last 3 years, and Brook has been huge. And ever since he's gotten there, the team is taking off. Granted, Giannis is the straw that stirs the drink, but Brook is a huge piece there.
Yep.
Definitely. We talk about straws who stir drinks. A big one is Nikola Jokic out there in Denver. And Gabe, you sort of gave your answer already to this, but it looks like right now the 2 guys you got to talk about with the MVP is Jokic and Embiid. A week or so ago, we was talking, and all these players are still in the stratosphere. You talk about Giannis, you want to talk about DeMar, definitely. You want to talk about God, I'm trying to think of Steph. There's guys who are in the stratosphere, but it seems like the 2 biggest planets right now in this MVP discussion are Jokic and Embiid. Embiid, we saw what he could do, up close on Monday. I'm looking at these numbers up with Jokic. Jokic himself beating the Warriors with a triple-double again, 32 points, 15 rebounds, and 13 assists last night in the win. Like I said, beating the Warriors. That's coming the night after 46, 12, and 11 against the Pelicans, man. Like, these numbers are insane, man. And say, Gabe, you like I said, you giving it to Embiid, but so many people are saying, man, Jokic, he may have to defend the title on this one with the MVP, man. What are y'all thoughts on that?
I think he can for sure, especially since he's doing this without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr., keeping this team afloat in the Western Conference with those guys coming back eventually. Like, you gotta give props to an MVP who elevates his game to that type of level. And I think what makes it so fascinating, too, is that this day and age, these numbers are being put up by big men, centers, that over time and throughout the history of the game, that's never really been done before, especially when you're talking about an assist perspective. Like, that's what makes Jokic's game so unique, his ability to not only be able to score the ball pretty much whenever he wants, but also make the assist and make the right plays to set up his teammates to score efficiently. And that's something that's being displayed. Obviously Joel Embiid can do it, and he's been the main reason why Philadelphia's been where they are now. But there's no Jokic, there's no Denver, because you don't have anybody else. And if you want to talk about the most valuable player, I'm with Gabe on this, as far as I do think Joel Embiid is my front runner, and if the season ended, he will be my MVP. But Jokic is like a 1B, 1A, 1B, because if you take him out of Denver with the numbers he's putting up, Denver would not be in the playoff race right now, because they don't have the top guy to run an offense around and anchor defensively around, especially without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. So you got to put Jokic in that 1A type of category, in that fight for tie for first place. We talk about the MVP race just because of that alone.
I've never seen a time in my life watching the NBA where every week you're looking at the top 5 in the MVP race fluctuate like it has. Nikola Jokic has always been a top 5 or 10 player to me. And if he played on the East Coast on a nightly basis, I think more fans would have a chance to appreciate just how talented he truly is. It's kind of crazy to think that statistically, he's probably going to end up putting a better year together this season than he did last year when he won the MVP. I feel like if Denver was a top 4 team, the conversation would really need to be had. But he's definitely, as of this week, you got to put him in the top 3, and you do have to respect what he's done, and even keep Denver within the top 6 and out of that play-in range, like you said, Josh, without a Jamal Murray, without a Michael Porter Jr., and they've been nicked up and banged up, and yet everything in Denver does go through Nikola Jokic right now, who is a very dominant force, and his vision is just crazy, man. And what he's able to do on the block, it's like these teams have no answer for him. I'm very interested to see them in a playoff series, but right now, he's elevated himself up into that MVP conversation where he's a top 5 guy. But then you also have like guys like Luka Doncic, who's making a run for it, DeMar. You still got what he did in February can't be understated. Like this All NBA first team, it's gonna be a lot of guys who end up getting left off and snubbed. And they're gonna feel like, hey, I had an argument for that. And that's gonna be interesting. How do you select the 5 guys for first team All NBA, let alone your top 5 in MVP voting?
It's gonna be a hell of a vote this year.
Yeah, I agree.
And we talk about Ja. He's him and Memphis are rolling right now. TNT beating up on New Orleans. So definitely. I'm glad you brought up Luka. Yeah, Luka's always in the hunt now. It seems with MVP too, because the way he carries Dallas. But Steve, if you had to put one other guy, like say I put the 2 big men up, if you had to put one other guy as an equal or close to it in the 3 spot, who would you put?
You just said it. Luka. I think ever since Dallas got rid of Porzingis, he has more freedom to kind of do what he does, which is get the team involved first early in the game. He gets his rebounds, and then second half he goes and scores. He takes over. As I'll say about 6'8" point guard. I mean, who's not athletic at all, but gets it done. I mean, he that's what he does. And I think, to say, I want to put LeBron. I want to put LeBron. It's just natural. And I'm not one of those LeBron.
In the middle of all this, LeBron just drops 56.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Saturday,
right. So, and I know somebody's gonna watch this and be like, so how y'all done bring up LeBron? Bruh, I mean, the Lakers record itself speaks for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's pretty much it.
It's pretty much, but Luka is definitely putting that team on his back. And not to say that, getting help from guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, who just got over there, is good for them. But he is like how Embiid was carrying Philly before they got Harden. And like you said, without Murray there in Denver, it's basically Jokic. So, it's kind of hard not to put Luka in that category, especially when everybody complained about him being so out of shape and not ready for the season early on. And he's proving everybody wrong again, saying, and saying that he could lead a team. And I mean, he would be that third slot guy. And we know, if you guys are on Twitter and everything, like we're seeing everybody posting, John Moran and D Rose MVP numbers. Yeah, I get that, but them is balling as well too. Them other guys are out there really balling, helping with that. That's a team effort. Even when John's not playing, those guys. Dallas in too many games without Luka Doncic. It's not many, and though Bronson comes off the bench, Dallas doesn't have a shot at the playoffs without that guy.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like Gabe said, this may be an unprecedented MVP race that we're seeing here, man. The way that we have so many competitors for it. So, and like it's gonna be interesting to see how these voters take in all this information. And we talked about it last week, like how it's a very much a narrative award too. Like that's just part of it. Given the process that it is now, that we have writers who pretty much vote on it. And, a lot of it is about people's stories and the stories of their teams and everything. That's why you mostly have people from winning teams win MVPs in the NBA. So, a lot of that's going to be in focus with this whole vote, and, who finishes where, who's hot, who's probably the hottest at the end of the year, who has the biggest games, maybe the biggest positions, maybe the TNT games, the ABC games, and who's performing at the highest level on those games. So we'll have to see. But it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. I hope DeMar doesn't fall off completely in the talk, because like Gates, he just won Player of the Month, and he had an amazing February. Hopefully he can get himself going back to where he can maybe at least hover around that top 5. But I'm worried, man, in the face of, I say, those big men and, people like John and Luka, man, it may be hard for him to stay in that top 5. But anyway,
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, let's sort of get towards the end of the show here. Steve, very glad to have you on, man, on at any time, but definitely in the wake of you being able to cover the super sectionals at UIC, the class was it 3 and 4A
yes,
games that
3
took
and 4A
place.
games.
Yeah, and you had in the 4A game, you had Whitney Young winning over Kenwood. Me and Gabe was talking before we got on. I saw some of the Tyrone Slaughter quotes from
Mike Irvin.
You probably were in the room for those, man. We was just talking about, like, man, there's no rivalry here with Kenwood, and like it's there's no such thing, and he was really just putting up, putting on for Whitney Young, which you can expect, given what they've done, and really I want to get your thoughts on them this year, like, because we talked at the beginning of the year about some of the local teams, and young is young. They always a great program, but is this surprising the way that they've come out this year and done what they've been able to do this year?
Necessarily. I think the reason why sometimes during the season we kind of lose Whitney Young in the conversation, because a lot of times they play out of state. Whitney Young sort of plays on national schedule. And with them playing a national schedule, we don't see them as much. And that was one of the conversations going into the city playoffs, is that for some reason every year, Whitney Young is one of the teams that's always forfeiting games at the end of the tournament, or at the end of the regular season, because they play so many games out of town that it's certain teams that they just never play each year. So how can we really put them in the city, or always give them like a number 1 seed or a top seed, because they come to an agreement with the other team that somebody will take the forfeit each year, but in the end, they always are battle tested come around this time, and which is why they do have such a winning percentage come state time, because they do go play the better teams across the country, and when it gets to this point, they seem to be ready for whoever's in the state.
And next up for them, they got Barrington in the state semifinals. State semifinals and finals taking place on Thursday through Saturday at State Farm Center, where U of I play in Champaign. And those games going to be on Friday with the Class 4A. Whitney Young going against Barrington and Bolingbrook against Glenbard West, who's a team that is, definitely garnered a lot of attention throughout this season. So we look at that foursome, I'm guessing Glenbard may be the favorite of that four, but
yeah, man, it's not even a question at this point who's going to win the 4A state championship. It's pretty much just written in stone. But we never know. Like I say, nothing's given until the 3 zeros on that clock. But Glenbard West has time and time throughout the year, even against that Sierra Canyon game, proved to everyone that they are here and they are ready to be thrown to be the champs. I mean, that's basically what this team was for the past 2 years have been, and this is what they've been marching towards the whole 2 seasons to be the #1 team in the state. And I don't see really anything knocking them off at this point. Whitney Young has been playing well of late, but we saw what happened to them the first time they played them, a 30-point loss. Maybe this year, maybe come Saturday, it'll be 15 points. But Glenbard West have so many weapons. They're just too big at every position. They kind of have, besides a natural point guard, but they have literally everything needed to win a state, no matter who they played. Even if Simeon was what we saw what they did to Simeon, it was ridiculous how they destroyed Simeon.
And Simeon, as I move to 3A, Simeon makes it to the semifinals. They won they won yesterday as well at UIC. They get to face Metamora. Well, I'm not exactly sure where that school. Yeah. But they faced them on Friday
near Peoria.
Peoria. Okay, that's usually the case. If it ain't Chicago, it's Peoria.
Right. Right.
With the big schools. But in the other side, Chicago's represented too from the Catholic side with St. Ignatius, and they go against Sacred Heart Griffin, which is typically a good program coming out of Springfield. What do you think about that foursome in that group?
That's a pretty good group. Ignatius kind of surprised a lot of people because they just didn't have the season that they were supposed to, but yet they're still going downstate. A really good senior-led team with Ignatius. A lot of those guys played varsity for 3 to 4 years already. They didn't have the type of season. I think early on, according to Michael O'Brien, he had them maybe as number 2, and they lost a lot of games. They lost a lot of games they should have won, but whatever the case, they're going downstate.
We was talking. I remember we was talking about them early in the year too. Yeah, we was talking about at least the Catholic schools like them and St. Rita.
Yep.
But you say, they had some tough losses during the year. They had some games that they kind of gave up, but I mean, like I said, I was gonna say 3A is basically for Simeon to lose. Saw a great performance by the junior big man Miles Rubin, who was a transfer from HF, that really came in and just was a load for Lamont to just even be able to guard. The kid just athletic, can caught a couple of times, got the ball in the post, drop step dunks, had about 3 to 4 blocks, covers ground, and then Simeon already has a good trio of guards that any 3 of their starting guards could be point guards at any other school, and they all play together. So you have those 3, and then you have the 2 twin brothers playing, and then Simeon could come off the bench with another group of 4 to 5 guys that can help, who would be starters anywhere else. Is always good to have, especially going down the state. And Rob Smith is just he's another coach that's just always ready for this time of year. Just always has his game plan ready. He does the work, and a lot of time it always shows because Simeon's always coming back home with some type of title. And looking at the lower classes, y'all Julian, y'all hosted some playoff games with the low. this year.
Yeah.
Did y'all get to see any of these lower class teams that are left? I know in 2A we got DePaul College Prep for Chicago. Shout out to Cam Smith and Tom Kleinschmidt and all
Gordon Tech.
Gordon, all the alums from former Gordon Tech. They going against Nashville, and Taylor Ridge of Rock Ridge is going against Monticello. Did you come across any of those teams this year?
So honestly, I'll be going down to Champaign. I'll be down there this weekend to go coach. We at our sectional we had Leo, who lost to DePaul last night. Leo actually went into that game as the number 1 2A team, but ended up falling to DePaul actually twice in the span of 2 weeks because they lost to them the week before we started the state playoffs. I think that was their last game. It was undefeated going to the last game, and DePaul ended up beating them. But DePaul has a big time recruit, 6'10" Dylan Arnett, who's a Division I prospect who gets it done. And those other teams in 2A those teams are mainstays downstate. They always come out on the small school side when it gets down to this point of the year. We always see Taylor Rock Ridge. You said Monticello, and the last one was Nashville. Nashville always downstate every year. I know
from I would have to say, for Southern Illinois schools, that's definitely one of those top schools out there.
They're always down there. So you never know what you're going to get from those teams. It'll be good, refreshing for me to finally see some new teams, because I feel like I've been covering the same 12 teams all year, besides my own games. But I've been watching the same teams every game: Simeon, Glenbar, Whitney Young, Kenwood, Julian, of course. But it's like the same kid, the same teams every year. Leo. So it'll be good to get down.
Steve, what do you think about the tournament going back to U of I?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Oh, great, man. I think it's great. A lot of people who I talk to are really interested in getting back down the state, especially since we haven't done it in 2 years anyway. But I think a lot of people who are really interested to see how it's going to shake out there. As far as I've been, my high school years, I've always been in Peoria. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm going, because I need to see, hey, what's the layout that Champaign is going to, put out there for the state of Illinois again for the high school basketball side. So I think it'll be fun. Hopefully we get some good weather down there. That always helps. But I think the format this year is really one of the biggest things too as well. I don't know if you know, but so they're doing 6 games the first 2 nights, and then the last night all 4 state championship games on the same day, which is something they haven't done before. Okay. I think it makes sense, if you ask me. So I mean, that'll be sort of new, because normally they do 1A, 2A one weekend, and then the next weekend they do 3A, 4A.
Right.
So just trying to knock them all out. Yeah, trying to knock them all out the same weekend is pretty big as well. And so I'm assuming they hope that they boost up the gate and get a lot of fans in. Who's just hungry for basketball into this one weekend.
But they did that last week with the girls, right? They did the same thing with the girls, but over in Peoria.
Normal.
Yeah.
Bloomington. Bloomington. Yeah. I think it did pretty better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look at again. Go ahead. I would say, looking at the boys' side just right quick, we looking at the 1A. You got Liberty and Scales Mound and Steelville against Yorkville Christian, who we talked about again earlier in the season because of their big recruit Jaden Shutt going to Duke.
Yeah,
and so that's definitely going to be a draw for a lot of people to see him try to finish off a state championship. Would Yorkville be the favorite in that foursome?
So Scales Mound is the overall 1A seed, and that's only because Yorkville Christian has played. yes, Yorkville Christian is the number one team to be beaten down there. I mean, never going against Duke guys. Of course, I would never go against Jaden Shute. So that yes, they should definitely be the number one team. But Scales Mound is the AP Illinois number one seed going into this thing. So I expect to see those two team championship. Anything can go. I think Scales Miles is more of a defensive team, and Yorkville Christian just kind of gets up and just kind of run and gun. So that'll be a good dynamic to watch over this weekend. But I'm rolling with the Yorkville Christian team because they just played everyone. A team who could go and play 4A Kenwood and beat them one weekend really shouldn't have too much issues dealing with smaller 1A teams. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Yorkville.
That makes
Christian.
a difference.
They play, Yorkville Christian. Yeah, Yorkville Christian. This is my first time, of course, hearing about them, but I didn't know they're not in a conference. So their whole schedule is just non-conference games. So that's sort of why they played everyone. They played with the Whitney Youngs. They played Leah. They played everybody. I don't think it's a team in the state they didn't play. And so that helps them immensely going to this state tournament because everybody they play. If you look at the numbers, the games, they've beaten everyone at least by 20, 30 points every game.
Right quick, what was the best game you think you were at personally this year?
The Glenbar West and what's the
Sierra King?
Sierra King. Yeah, that game by far was one of the most intense, just fun games to be at. It just brought that high school feel back to life. And don't get me wrong, like the game last night with Kenwood and Young was pretty fun too. That was a fun rubber match, but on a natural side, that game. But that Sierra Canyon Glenbar West game was one of the all-time favorite games I've probably been to in my life, honestly. In my life.
Yeah, people probably gonna talk a lot about that game going forward with the way that the star power that was involved in that and the setting and the way that it ended. It was a great game, definitely. But right quick,
to be honest, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, it's funny. I have a nephew who doesn't even watch basketball, but knew that Bronny and Amari Bailey was coming in town, and this is a month or two before the game even happened. So that lets you know the type of coverage it was getting. That even guys who don't even cover it in their own state basketball watch it knew how big of a game this was. Well, initially it was supposed to be Simeon, but you know what I'm saying? That's how big it was that everybody knew about it, and when you talk about sell out. Like UIC Pavilion last night had big crowds, but the whole Wintrust was sold out from the bottom to the top for these two high school games. So that lets you know how big it was.
Definitely. And that it looked like it was a whole I streamed it on from home, and it just looked like comparing that. That presence and everything to what you get even from the DePaul games or the Sky games that we saw last year. It was on top of all that. Like it was like you say, the place was packed, the energy was there. It was great to see. So hopefully they will put together more games like that in that arena because it's really ideal for that type of stuff. But before we go though, man, you mentioned you mentioned your love for Duke. And we gotta ask you about this past weekend and what happened, man.
Saturday didn't happen. That didn't happen, by the way.
You gonna try to ignore it? Coach K couldn't ignore it after the game. He had to tell everybody to shut up, man, because he was mad, man. That's a rough one though. On his last game, and on that court to lose like that to NC, man. Do you think the guys going to get over that, man?
They will, I think. And going into it, that's an emotional game for those guys. But you got to think about it. And I'm not throwing out no excuses, but here's my excuse. Those guys had I mean, Coach K had how many people come in for that game? You got all these old NBA guys who used to be on campus. You got all these, like I saw a picture before the game. Not Wendell Carter. What man? Wendell Moore. Wendell Moore is taking pictures with Dirk Nowitzki. Yeah, taking pictures with Dirk Nowitzki before he was supposed to go play a rivalry game. Let's be honest. Like, your mind is not set to go play a big time rivalry game. Not to mention, UNC y'all just whooped UNC by 30 practically in Chapel Hill. So UNC is not caring about none of this. They want blood. And you going into oh man, that's our coach last game, and we gonna do, we want to set him out right, and then you got Jay Williams coming in, you got Jason Tatum, you got all these guys there, and you were like, oh, that's such and such. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to get prepared for a game when you dealing with that type of stuff, and everybody's emotional. You got all these people coming out of nowhere that you haven't seen all year coming to your game, and again, it was for the right purpose. Coach K, his farewell tour, I get it, but it's hard to drop all those emotions and just go right to playing a game for a team that's coming for your head. It is what it is. So it's actually good for Duke to kind of lose the game like that right before the ACC playoffs, because now it sharpens them back up. Because if they win that game by 20, more likely they lose in the semifinals to Florida State or something again. So I'd rather them lose that game and then be able to win the ACC and hopefully get a strong 2 or maybe 1 seed going into the tournament next weekend.
Speaking of that, speaking of that, like, dude, like, because they got a chance to get a number 1 seed, and there's been a lot of reports going on that, as opposed to picking the South region, which is a East region, which is traditional for Duke to do when they get the top seed, that they're considering picking the Midwest region and playing in Chicago as a result of those games last season. What's your thoughts on that?
Give me that right there. I'm buying all the tickets up for myself. I'm in there.
But now they may have to win. They may have to win the ACC to get in that position now.
To get a 1 seed, right? Yeah. I mean, my thing is because like Purdue, because I'm thinking as far as Midwest, the Big Ten will be a likelihood for a Midwest team. So if they get a 1 or a 2 in the Midwest, who do you put? You could probably say U of I in that spot, which I wouldn't be afraid of U of I at all, especially how they played last year. And I still think they have some issues that they need to address going into the tournament. And I'm a U of I guy as well. Like I'm a fan of U of I.
But it seems like right now people are looking at Gonzaga, Auburn, maybe Kentucky, maybe what's another? It's one other team. But there's sort of a group like that. Duke of course is in. But or the Big 12 winner may be involved in that as well.
Right.
So,
but that'd be Kansas,
or Baylor.
Oh yeah, maybe Kansas could possibly be. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean, you're looking at a group like that, who you probably fighting with for those top seeds.
Yeah, and I mean Gonzaga will be scary, but this Gonzaga team is not like that Gonzaga team from last year, so they don't really put a huge scare. I mean, I think they bring back Tilly, who's a really good player. But as far as those other teams, this is an open championship for anybody in college. I don't see there's no one team that you just can say, oh, we know they'll be in the Final Four. You know what I'm saying? They'll put Gonzaga in the West, but they'll get some runs. Like Gonzaga lost to someone for the first time in the conference in a while. Santa Clara, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Santa Clara and
St. Mary's actually.
Right, yeah. Normally
right.
St. Mary's. Yeah, normally St. Mary's is always the team who always knock off Gonzaga. So I mean, I don't see Gonzaga as a
they're playing now in their conference championship. Gonzaga's up 10 they're about to go into halftime. But yeah, but it was St. Mary's that beat them.
Yeah, and so I mean, I don't see them as a huge factor, or they're a huge factor. I don't see them as a big mountain for any teams to climb because the Pac-10 has been pretty good too. You got Arizona, who's been playing pretty well.
Arizona,
I mean, yeah, you know, you throw them in that pack. I mean, anybody. This is pretty much open. You know, Baylor doesn't have Mitchell anymore. Mitchell's the main person on that team last year who you like. If you don't want to see anybody, you don't want him guarding you. You don't want him guarding anybody on your team because he's going to come up with a steal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just too tough. He's one of the dogs that you gotta, man, don't let him off the leash. But besides that, it's nobody like that in basketball. The kid from Auburn that they're touting that could be a number one is somebody. Yeah, like he's somebody who I can, you know, see that could be a problem when he got a big tournament. But really, nobody's scary. I mean, Kentucky has all the weapons, but we've seen it as Kentucky can really have some great days and some really bad days where they just don't have it that day. And I mean, that could be anybody in the tournament this year.
Yeah, that's true about Kentucky.
Definitely.
That's my favorite program, named John Calipari. But yeah, they had a good day. Like defensively, when they're clicking, they look like the top team in the country. But when their defense isn't right and shots aren't falling, it could be rough for them.
Yep. So yeah, it'll be a fun tournament, man. I'm looking forward to just watching games again on Thursday morning at 9:00. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Shout out to U of I. Shout out to Loyola for both getting in again. It looks like you know Loyola's official because they won the Valley. U of I won a piece of the Big Ten, and they're gonna be the number one seed in the tournament coming up this weekend. So they're in a good position, and hopefully they won't get matched up in round 2 again. But we'll see how that goes.
They can't do that. They can't do that to us again.
Yeah, they did the bogus last year, man. But like I said, Loyola's game to play. They came into that Valley as a 4th seed, man, and they just handled their business the entire weekend. So that I say shout out to Drew Valentine in his first year. Really good job that he's done with that program. They're not losing anything, it looks like. But I'm gonna see. We may have a little something on Sunday. I know we did something last year right after the brackets came out, but I'm definitely gonna try to put together a bracket challenge too. So we'll try to get you gentlemen and some of our other collaborators and such involved in that, and we gonna see who can make the it ain't really no skill to it. It's just who makes the best guesses. Really when it comes to those brackets. Yeah, who makes the best set of guesses. But it's fun anyway, And we definitely go like I say, keep up with that as the rest of March rolls around. But for now, this gonna be it for this round of Running with WARR. Appreciate you gentlemen for joining me on this episode. Gabriel Wilkins, Joshua M. Hicks, Coach Steve Parham definitely made this show another fun one. And guys, if you guys want to shout out anything or like I say, let anybody know what's going on with you before we hang up.
I'll go first.
Yeah, Steve. Oh, I didn't do that. Hopefully, we can get him back on before we sign off. But Steve did say he's gonna be at the high school state championships this weekend in Champaign. I guess he should be writing and stuff for that. But okay, we get him back on here. We could shout out where we could get his coverage. Steve, you good?
Yeah, I'll just cut off on.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I started it out for you. Like you said, you're gonna be at the IHSA.
IHSA, yeah. I'll be on Friday. I'll be going down there to catch the 3A4 championships and just check out articles from me on Prep Hoops this weekend. Me and Scott Burgess, who do a great job covering the state and high school basketball scene. So yeah, look out. Catch me on Twitter at Coach S Parham. I forgot to put it on my header, but yeah, just look out for some tweets and stuff from me this weekend, just regarding the state and going forward, man.
I'm sorry, but I mentioned earlier about the fight that happened. It was the NEC championship game, and like ESPN just circled. They just put the circle on one kid in the stands. Like he's the dude in Public Enemy shirt or something, man. Like they was like this is who to blame right here. It's like some young boy in a USA jersey, man. He's gonna be all on ESPN for the next 24 hours, I guess. But they had to stop that game apparently. So, but it was a blowout anyway. So yeah, that's how it is. Right. But I guess they're going to have to do better with their security, NEC. So, but anyway, Josh game. Y'all got anything else before we sign off?
Nah, man, not for the most part. Just follow me on the Twitter and Instagram, Josh M. Hicks Media, for all the latest stuff going on. And the scope is coming back soon. Been handling some other stuff with grad school and everything. And finally, projects coming up, so I'm trying to knock those things out. But outside of that, in the scope will be back soon. So definitely be on the lookout for that and other things coming your way very soon.
But you may have some postseason coverage for DePaul,
right? We have someone else doing that. Someone else is doing that. So I will not be doing. I'll just be watching the games. I will just watching the games.
Oh, okay. Well, go Blue Demons, nevertheless.
Yeah, I know that spring break. Yo.
Man, we need it bad.
I remember them. I remember them grad school days at DePaul. But yeah, you guys can follow me at What Gabe Said on Twitter. I'm always talking about game on there. Outside of that, you can just find me there. Find me on my Facebook at my name. I'm always talking basketball. So anytime, anywhere.
Definitely. We're glad to have Gabe on talking with us as well. So yeah, that's it for now, man. Definitely follow these guys. Follow WARR Media at WARR Media on social, all your major socials. WARR on Anchor podcasts. You get this podcast and many others. Second City Sports, that Davis show. All our pop culture stuff we got going on. I said, including the recaps of shows like Winning Time, which we're getting more into as the spring unfurls. And yeah, that's it for now. Kyle Means Matters on Twitter, and K Mean on the IG. For now, we like I said, we'll see. We'll check us out on Sunday. I think I'll have a little something live with some I get reacted to the brackets. And after that we'll be next show we're gonna try to get as many people on as possible, to many of the core people on as possible, to run through their brackets for the WARR bracket challenge. So we gonna get back to that's how we're gonna celebrate the madness going forward. And like I say, who has the best guesses. But for now, check out our partners too with TixBlitz.com. Promo code WARR, save 5% on any orders. If you try to get some tickets to one of these NCAA tournament events, including Chicago at the United Center, check out TixBlitz.com. You may be able to hook yourself up with a little discount there if you save with WARR promo code there. And yeah, that's it for now. Keep bouncing, y'all. Keep peace in Ukraine and everywhere else in the world. And that's it. We out.
Peace.